Hi everyone, welcome. I am going to start now. Obviously, Lauren's here, ready to talk and chat. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, thanks for coming today and for sharing your recent experience at Milan Design Week, which is a reoccurring thing the same time every year. Is that right?
Yes. So last year it was actually a little bit later. So it was in June. But this year it went back to the normal timetable of being around April. So yes, we were able to go back and experience all things fabulous and design-wise. And it was just amazing, I guess, to connect with global design influencers and just to see what is trending overseas.
Fantastic. And was this something that was planned with Dulux a while in advance, or was it something that you kind of had, notice about not that long, or was it something that you knew was coming up and you had it in your schedule?
Yeah, so we always have Milan Design Week in part of our calendar as a very influential piece, I guess, for design trends and making sure that we're staying on top of what's coming out of Europe. It's also a very important piece in our colour forecast, which we launch in August annually. So we attend a lot of different seminars, but definitely the Milan piece is sort of a validation of our colour forecast and how we're going to adopt that into Australian built environments. So it's a big part, but not necessarily the only part.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I'm going to let you do your presentation, so I'll hop off here. And what I'll just say to everyone is, if you'd like to ask Lauren any questions, if you could just use down the bottom, there's a little box called Q&A. If you can just jump in there and ask any questions, I'll let Lauren know that there's one in there. Thanks, Lauren.
Great. Thank you so much. And nice to have so many people on the line. It's always nice to share our experiences. So just a little bit about me. My name is Lauren Treloar. I'm the Dulux Colour Manager, and I'm also studying with ISCD as well. So I'm still learning and I'm definitely more of a marketer at the moment, and I'm up to subject 8 in my learning program. But enough about that. Let's talk about something really fabulous, which is, of course, Milan Design Week. So I did have the opportunity to attend this year with Dulux, and one of the reasons that I got to go was that we were celebrating our 25th anniversary of the Dulux Colour Forecast. And I'll show you a few moments of that as well. But I thought I'll start off with a video just so that we can take you all there and you can get a real feel for what Design Week is all about, if it works. you don't want to see it again. Okay, so hopefully that set a bit of the scene of what Milan Design Week is all about. We did have the opportunity of actually taking some of the members from the DIA on a bit of a study tour whilst we were there as well. So that was some of the people that you saw in the video, and I've got another one to share with you a little bit later. But let me take you through a few of the installations, and then at the end I've also got some of the key learnings and I guess takeouts, which we found really, really important to bring back to the team and also the Australian market as well. So first we had Mui, which was a beautiful installation, and they created this cosmos at Milan Design Week. They really offered a beautiful sensory explosion. And what they actually had was an area where you could create a room scent via AI. So what you had to do was go into their beautiful environment, and you answered a whole lot of questions. And then from answering all those questions, it provided you with your own personalized room scent, which you could then, of course, order and take it home with you. So the way that they, I guess, were showcasing their stand was very much via this and just playing on the sensory piece as well. What you can see here is some beautiful bursts of color coming through. But one of the things that you'll see throughout all of the different images that I'll share with you is how much color is starting to come back in different ways, and also how we're seeing a lot of fabric and drapery as well. So you can see through here, this is all coming back into a lot of the installations that we saw. The next area that we went to was a beautiful gallery, which is very, very popular for Milan Design Week, and it's called Nilüfer. This was actually one of my favorite installations that we got to see. And one of the reasons that I really loved it was the play that they used on reflection and light through this. So what they actually did was they created this amazing area where a lot of the pieces reflected upon each other. And it created these, I guess, this beautiful atmosphere for everybody. And it felt very uplifting, very whimsical, very light and bright. And then they had different designers with beautiful pieces which were showcased. So on the next one, which I'm going to show you now, you can see here, this was a beautiful installation that was done by Lauren Treloar. And I'm not too sure if some of you are familiar with her work. And if you're not following her on socials, make sure you do. She is every bit as much fabulous as her design. I'm hoping you guys can still hear me perfectly. So Lauren Treloar has recently just won a NGV commission as well. So she'll be coming to Australia later in the year to bring, I guess, to showcase some of her beautiful furniture works as well. But the reason why we were so excited to see Bethan, I guess, on the global stage is because we were able to have her at one of our events for our colour forecast. So I'll show you a video of that in a minute, just so that you can hear from her, because she is so amazing and so inspiring. But what I really loved about her pieces is the way how she still takes traditional influence from like Japanese type of heritage in their furniture, and then she injects color, which is, and she actually brings that from, she goes to Mexico quite a bit and travels a lot. So she brings the influence of the color from Mexico into some of those more traditional pieces. So it's really unique to see how, I guess, she's trying to take something that was a little bit old and create her own spin on it and make it new again. And again, another piece that was really big that we saw was different wall coverings. So you can see here that the wall coverings that they've used on this piece here and the way that it reflected. So you can see that that then provides this beautiful shadow in certain areas. And again, when they had all of these beautiful moments of reflection, that area, depending on the way you walked, really showcase that. Alrighty. The next bit that I was going to show you is, so this is our event that we had whilst we were there. And this is Bethan here with our very lovely Dulux dog. And then we also had this beautiful lady, Serena, who's a local Milanese designer who she's done some amazing installations in Italy, but she does a lot of work with who has she done some work with of recent, but she's done some work with the tennis over there and creates almost like these selfie moments and these great installations. So what we asked her to do was we gave her a very open brief and just said to her, we'd love to see what you could come up with. And the only thing that we said to her is it has to be very colourful, and you'll see here what she created.
We have seen so much change in 25 years. It's really quite incredible that particular consumer events and world events actually change and define colour and design.
Colour is one of the ways I most digest the world around me. I often react to the environment of colour and then build a language and a body of work around that.
It's always different because you see things through their eyes and you see things that you don't see when you live here. The weather is stunning, so I thought, okay, let's make it like a pool party. So this is an abstraction of this image.
We've seen a change to more bolder, probably more creative, different styles, different periods, colour, texture. We really see that designers want to create spaces that are unique.
You have to keep like a healthy balance of being aware of what's going on, but also what's going to be the trend that's coming next.
Also, I think things are cyclical. Like a lot of beautiful design, it's influenced by, you know, previous generations, previous eras, and then it's refined and made more sophisticated. You want life to be a celebration, so I feel colour's really important.
So that was just a little taste of one of the moments that we created for all of the Australian designers that were in Milan. And there's quite a lot that do actually go to Milan Design Week, and there was about 70 that were there, and also some media as well. So it was really great to get them together so everyone could connect. The next area that I was going to talk about is Rosanna Alandi. So I'm sure you guys might be very familiar with her, but she's sort of like the godmother of Milan Design Week. And she opens up her doors of the gallery and brings in some really brilliant furniture designs. And she always is thinking about sustainability. The theme that she sort of brought to life for this year was all about responsibility. Now, one of the areas that I was going to talk about here is this first photo. Now, this is the colour Waterfall by Draga and Aurel, and it's really what it's trying to show here is all the brimming waterfall of colours, the way how light and transparency can be utilised. And what they've done is it's all inspired by the lighting boxes of an artist and composer, Brian Eno, as well. So really, really amazing how they draw on their inspiration for what they're created here. The other bit that I was just going to chat to is also the middle piece here, and hopefully you can see this quite clear, is this beautiful table, which is called Rainbow. So that's lovely. And you know, what the maker of this actually said to us is, I called it Rainbow because it was like a rainbow after a storm. It's about lightness and the relief and joy. And we just really thought that was so beautiful, the way how it actually had this beautiful story that they were trying to bring to life through what they've created there. And you can sort of see the way how the light's then reflecting down through it as well. The next installation that we also went to was Gooby. So Gooby was this amazing sort of selfie moment, to be honest. They created this area here, which you probably saw splashed all over the different socials everywhere. But it was a beautiful example of creating wellness and mindfulness energy into design. And they created their installation at the historic bathhouse, which is amazing that they're actually able to get this for this installation. So normally this would be full of people during summer months, and it's a very, very popular place. But I think what they did, the way that they set up their, very modern furniture against the tranquility of the bathhouse was a real genius moment. And I think that's really why we saw this really being blasted across all the different socials as well. The other thing that we did notice is the stripes and tassels, and of course the colour blocking of the umbrellas was really quite striking. The other thing was that they did celebrate their 10th year of the Beetle chair, which you can see right here. And they sort of brought through all these different artistic responses to the chair. And you'll sort of pick up on a lot of the different things in the presentation. There were a lot of anniversaries that people were really celebrating. So a lot of brands and installations were showcasing their heritage and I guess the way that they storytell their brand story. And I think that's a really beautiful moment, because Milan Design Week is all about knowing the makers and knowing the story of what they're trying to show as well. So of course, Gooby, they were showing their anniversary of the chairs. Dulux were there for their 25th anniversary of the colour forecast. And there's also Demore were also there for their anniversary. So it was a lot of these beautiful moments that we were seeing whilst we were there. All right, the next one is Casina. And again, just echoing what I just said about anniversary, they were actually celebrating their 50th anniversary, which is pretty amazing. Their exhibition was held in a very contemporary and industrial space. And it was a very interesting space, let me say. I guess here it looks quite bright and not too overwhelming. The next area that I'll show you here is just how dramatically changed that was. So they really did have this really bold, dramatic color, and they did this through light. We did see different areas of this as well coming to life, where installations were really quite bold with their light and the way that they lit up their areas. But for us, this one was quite challenging, to be honest, in regards to when you went into the space. You were so overwhelmed by the red light. But then they created these beautiful moments of soft light that went over what they were trying to showcase. So it was quite interesting. I guess it gives you a different take on what they were trying to showcase. And you can see here just how much color is starting to come through, which is amazing. The next one was Demore, and I found this really interesting. So again, they were celebrating their 20th anniversary. And Demore was sort of one of the ones that everyone said to me, make sure you go to Demore. They're always a standout. And they definitely were a standout. But for me, I found their installation very overwhelming. So it was quite dark and moody. And it sort of took me a while to really experience what they were trying to showcase. So I had to take a step back and then go back in and actually look at it from a different lens. And on reflection, when I started to read more about this, it actually made a lot more sense to me, because their exhibition was called No Sense. So to me, that really made a lot more of an understanding of what they were trying to show. But the one thing that I really loved about what they were telling us in this installation is what they've actually got here on the walls, and hopefully you can see this. We loved seeing, this is actually them revealing all of the color changes that has happened over the past 20 years of, I guess, the heritage of their brand. So what they're showcasing is how, you can see the browns, you can see the goldens coming through and the whites. They're showcasing how color changes every year. And I think that was a really beautiful moment once you went through, and you can sort of see the way that they've done that in different ways as well, with wallpaper and paint. So that was very interesting. And then on the flip side, this is in the same building. So you could imagine we've gone from a very dark and moody space with Demore, and then we went upstairs into the apartment to see Muto. So Muto was very, obviously you can see it there, it's very tonal and very bright lit. So we sort of had this moment where we're like, oh my goodness, we've gone from one experience to another, but they really complemented each other, because it gave you a real talking point around what they were trying to showcase within the building. The one thing that we really loved is that it was this peace and tranquility that they were really creating here, and the use of color. So you can see actually here the two images. So this is the same color, but you can see how one is looking a lot more lemon and one is looking a lot more green. And what they're showing here is just the way how the light really does change color. And I think that's a really big point that we saw come through as well. And we really loved, of course, we're seeing painted ceilings really trend, especially in Australia, and I'm sure you've all said it as well. Painted ceilings is almost like the new featured wall, if you like. So people are actually being a bit more creative and looking at different ways that they can inject colour. We also really enjoyed this space as well because they've utilised colour on doors and architraves in a very subtle way as well. And that was a really great piece here. Okay. Missoni, I'm sure everyone's very familiar with Missoni, and the Missoni showroom was a fantasy sort of landscape of very unusual and ironic shapes. They did have a focus on some new chairs as well that you can see just starting to come through through all of here as well. Of course, colour and pattern are very much what Missoni are very famous for and known for, and it was this exhibition, to be honest, it was just a delight to see. It was really beautiful the way they brought it all together, and it did give us a moment of actually sitting down and just a bit of relief on the feet as well. So that was muchly appreciated when we visited the Missoni stand. The next one I'm going to chat through is a very interesting one, which is solid nature. And there was a lot of talk whilst we're in Milan about this installation. There was a real buzz around what they've created, and their installation was called Beyond the Surface. And they worked with a Dutch materials company, I think it was OMA from memory, and they're a global architectural firm. And what they've brought together was this amazing installation with solid nature. So the thing which really blew us away is the way that they've utilized stone in such a different way. And you can see it here, like the way how it's on the walls, it's on the ceilings. And you would know, obviously, stone is a very, very heavy material. But what they've actually done is that they've found a way where they can actually, I guess, reduce the thickness of the stone. So that allows it to be a lot more cost effective, a lot more usable in different ways, and a lot more sustainable, to be honest. So it's an interesting way of stone innovation. And, you know, you can see here walking down the staircase was just incredible. It was 8 different varieties of onyx used in a different range of colours. We had soft pinks in this area and also a really deep blue that you can see. So it was just a really beautiful moment, and one that everyone was speaking about while we were there. But you can even see in this picture that I'm pointing to right here, you can see just how thin they were able to get the stone here. So it's really amazing to see some stone innovation in there. The next one is Cartel. So Cartel is one of our favorites, and you know, they always have something really colorful and beautiful. It was super engaging, the way that they actually created this installation. So the way that you actually went through it was really, really interesting. And the way that they utilized the color, you can probably see it more here on this orange section. It's sort of, you can see how it's just a very gradual build and then it gets a lot stronger. So that was really interesting as well. So the transition of color was just very, very seamless that we saw. And of course they had all of their beautiful materials that they were showcasing too. The next one that I'm going to show, where are we? Sancal. So Sancal, this is a beautiful design from a Spanish furniture brand. And they had an incredible influence from the best of the 70s. So if you think about before, when I started the presentation, I was talking about drapery and all the fabrics that we're starting to see. So you can see here, it's brown, brown, brown. So a lot of people think, oh my goodness, is that these are colours that I grew up with? But it's quite interesting because there's a lot of people who aren't familiar with these colours, and it's sort of re-injecting I guess, these colours to a new audience, which is quite interesting. So the combinations of brown and yellow with some very fabulous prints starting to come through here. And, you know, they also demonstrated pops of colours that you can see as the red in some of the areas, which I think might be on the next shot. I don't know if I popped it in. They had this beautiful other shot, which had some red on the curtains as well. Which really showcase how they could inject the colour, but I think also utilising the yellow really adds some intrigue into the space too. So I've kept this one in here. I think this is a really interesting installation. To me, this has just got Palm Spring vibes everywhere, Coachella vibes. But it was a very creative installation and it was very innovative as well. I do really love the way how they utilized sort of the ombre sort of look coming through here on the walls, which created the beautiful sunset sort of feel in the space. But the thing that was really innovative is these are outdoor sofas, and all of these sort of the back areas here, they can actually be moved into anywhere on the actual sofas. So if you decided that you wanted to have it in just one spot, and so you could lay down, you could, or you could have it so it was there for back support, so you could read a book. So it just showed the versatility of this range, but also all the curves and the curvature and the way how it could be quite modular was really, really interesting too. The next one that I've popped in here. So this is when we actually went out to the fair at Salone. So one thing that I just wanted to mention, so with Milan Design Week, there of course is the fair part, which is a little bit further out of town, where it's literally like 20 sheds of these amazing furniture brands. Or where you go into Milan, where it's more about installations and people sort of take over a certain area to create an atmosphere or to showcase a product launch. So here, this is where we saw some things when we were out of the fair. And you again see here that, you know, shapes are really quite big, and you can see the bold color being used. But the one thing that I wanted to speak to was Jessie. So this is the tapware just here on the right-hand side. Now, Jessie, they for us were a bit of a standout, and the reason they were a standout is they really experiment with material, shape and technique. And you can see here, this is actually bamboo tapware. So this is the first time that we've sort of seen anything like this. And the bamboo tapware was just absolutely fabulous. And it was influenced from the old traditions. And what we found really quite interesting was the way that they had different color ranges of the bamboo as well. So what they did was they had the 3 grades of color. They had light, which was very, only had a few charred marks. They had medium, which had a few, I guess, subtle dark charred marks. And then the dark means that it's been in, obviously, and it's been quite charred. But it definitely was a standout, and it did actually win Stand of the Year. And the other tapware that they had within their stand was just as impressive, to be honest. It was really, really high end. So it was definitely something that we enjoyed. The next one that I'm just going to finish on before I go into, I guess, some of the material trends and things that we saw is Hermès. So obviously Hermès is a very luxurious French brand, and they displayed their latest homeware collection in sort of a very brutalist and industrial environment. And what they actually did is they had all these iron rods being utilized in the space, which you can see here. And what that actually did is, as you can see here, it creates all these shapes as you're about to enter it, and then you'd enter the wonderland of what they've actually created with their very ultra graphic rugs. The one thing that I will say about Hermès, we had this amazing opportunity where we got taken through the exhibition with the creative director from Hermès, and he actually told us this really, really special story, which I wasn't across. And of course, Hermès is very famous for the horse and equestrian type of saddles and things like that. And what he explained was how everything that they create goes back to the essence of the horse and the ethos of their brand being that. And what he explained to me that, you know, even when you think about their homewares, that there's no difference to that. So even when you can see the rug here, this is actually, when you look on the side, it's a bit of a horse head shape. On this one in the middle, on the rug, you can see they're meant to be the horse jumps when they're doing equestrian. And then over here, I'm pretty sure this one was to do with the saddle wear and things like that. But the other thing that they mentioned is, you know, materials are really, they always make sure everything's linked back. So even things like the silks that they use, that's, you know, a nod to the jockeys wearing silks and things like that. So to me, it was just another really beautiful storytelling moment of a brand that has been around for a very, very long time, and the way how they've stuck to their tradition of where they've come from, which I think is really, really beautiful. The other thing that they mentioned to us is the whole stand that they create is sustainable. So everything to do with it is recycled, which I just think is absolutely amazing. And I really challenged them on that as well. Because I said, what do you mean? Even like down to the nails and things like that. And they said, yes, every single nail in the stand is pulled out and recycled for the following year. Even with the flooring, when they actually sand that all back, all the particles are also then melted down for the next year. So I just think it's amazing the level of detail that all of these fabulous designers are coming up with, and how they can make sure that what they're doing can be reused in certain ways and recreated. So that was really interesting. Okay. So material directions, I've just popped these in because I think they're really, really important once you look through everything, just to go back and sort of see what sort of similarities you can see coming through. So as I've mentioned, old traditions and them being renewed has been a big theme that we've seen come through Milan. And I think it's really impressive when you see some of these brands take something and not necessarily recreate it, but they might think about things a little bit differently and put more of a modern spin on it. But they still are very, very conscious to make sure that it is still linked back to the essence of the tradition too. The other one was, of course, the innovation in stone that I spoke to just before. This one's really, really, it was actually just mesmerizing what they created, but it was a huge step change in stone. Of course, we're seeing a lot of talk of stone at the moment, and the fact that, you know, you can actually now have this ultra lightweight stone veneer being utilized, it sort of opens up the possibility more for stone on different surfaces. So that's quite interesting as well. Transparency and reflection was, of course, a huge theme that we saw come through, and you know, it was present in different ways as well. So you can see here, this was one of the installations, but you know, we saw it a lot at Rosanna Orlandi, but we also saw it out at the fair too, just in different ways. But that was really interesting. And the other bit was chrome accents. So it was interesting that chrome's starting to come back. So we did see that displayed a lot in different furniture and, of course, lighting. But in saying that, we did still see gold and warm neutral still have, I guess, its role. But I guess chrome is an opportunity for both more traditional and modern styling opportunities as well. So this is quite a unique one that we saw. Where am I up to? The next one was all around sensorial spaces. So this was very much neutrals, the soft buttery sort of shades coming through here. But as I mentioned before, the drapery and the textured fabrics was really, really, sorry guys, was really quite prominent as well. But the shag pile carpets, so that was also something that we saw a lot coming back. And I think that just shows the role of texture, that people are looking for comfort within spaces as well. And then on the flip side, you've got the 70s glam. So this was really quite interesting to see how this was potentially coming back. And I think as well, you know, for a lot of generations, they didn't experience the 70s. So it's now a different interpretation of what other people do know as the 70s, and just how we make that a little bit more glamorous within the built environment as well. But I guess areas where we did see examples of that was the Louis Vuitton installation, where they sort of had this real, I don't want to say retro, it was definitely more 70s, but they just sort of had this nod to that era. And then they put a modern twist on it as well, which was really, really great. And you might have seen one of the installations where it was like the hanging chair and was spinning. So that was an example of that as well. And then this is my last slide, earthy comfort. And I mentioned this before, the browns are definitely, and I know that we're all talking about warmer colors a lot at the moment, but the browns are definitely here to stay at the moment. So we're seeing the buttery neutrals, the burnt oranges, the baked clays, and also this real brick red starting to come through as well. And then we see the sweet caramels and the chocolates. So people are looking for comfort within their homes. And we know that a lot of the time, when people are going through, when the economy is going through financial crises and things like that, people look for more of those comforting colors to be surrounded by as well. Which is what we're seeing coming through in this warm neutrals area. And then geometry return. So as I mentioned before, there was a lot of different play on shapes. So we've obviously had a lot of soft and round shapes currently and in the last few years. And we're probably not saying that they're going to go anywhere, but these straight lines and different shapes and things like that are definitely going to, we're going to see a bit more of them, which is which is exciting, to be honest. It'll be good to sort of see what else is coming up in that space. But I would imagine definitely furniture and art would be something to watch in that space as well. And then just before I finish, because I love a video, here's our last one. Case you didn't wanted to say it again. I guess that was it from me. I just wanted to share a little bit about my opportunity and what we saw, but hopefully you enjoyed that. I'm just going to stop sharing.
That was so cool. I love it. I'd seen it. I was lucky enough to see it a few weeks ago when you girls were presenting on the day 2 Dulux Colour Awards. But again, you know, those videos really tell a story too, don't they? I've got all the still images, which are wonderful, but the videos kind of encapsulate this sheer scale of it all, I guess.
Yeah, I think so as well, because it's really hard to experience, I guess, to showcase the experience, because it's not just Design Week, it's the culture, it's the food, and it's the company as well. So if anyone does have the opportunity to go, or even just to hear more of the talks, I would encourage you to, because it's really really interesting, and I love learning about it.
Yeah. And how did you feel afterwards, after coming back? Did you feel like you had you know, a lot more of a worldly overarching knowledge of design, I guess?
Yeah, I think it was a really steep learning curve, to be honest. And I think, I was very well prepared of what to sort of expect, but until you're thrown into the mix of it, it really is design on a global stage, would probably be the way that I describe it. And you are seeing these amazing brands, and just to me it was actually about the heritage of it all and the culture of it all. Italy is just such an old and beautiful country, and then you come back into Australia, and to me it just showed how modern Australia was as well. So it was quite interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it? Nicole's got a question for you. Lauren, I would love to know how you digest all of that information and interpret it into the colour forecasts. There were so many inspiring installations. Also, I loved seeing more gold and mustard. Seems a little more luxurious than the predominant earthy tones we've seen over the last few years.
Yeah, agree. So I guess the first part, just to do with colour forecast. So colour forecast is, I guess, something that we do every 12 months, and we do launch it in August. We utilize a lot of what we see in Milan as sort of the confirmation of our forecast. To be honest, so what we tend to see is a lot of repetition, especially when you go out to the Salone, where you see all the trade shows, because there's literally like 20 different sheds that you can go through, and that's where you start to see all of it just become very repetitive, and you can see some of the trends really stand out. But as I mentioned, Milan Design Week is just one part of forecast. Andrea and of course Bree, they spend a lot of time going to different seminars. That we're also part of the colour marketing group, where there's a lot of global forums as well, where we sort of pull all of the information together. But then what the really important thing is making sure that we adopt it for Australian conditions, because as you know, we all live very differently sometimes to other countries, and we have open plan living, we have different lighting, so we need to take all of those things into consideration as well. So it's definitely a piece of the puzzle, is the way that I describe it, to colour forecast, but a very important piece. And then the other point on all of the gold and mustards, yeah, there's a lot. And I find that colour really hard, to be honest. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how we subtly introduce it into the built environment. I think the other thing that probably to know as well is the greens and the blues are still going to continue, but they're a little bit different. So you have to wait until August. We're just about to start shooting all of our forecast content. But yeah, I can't wait to share it all with you.
We're looking forward to that. And Andrea's said that she'll come in and have a chat to us after that's done, the forecasting. So yeah, we'll have another live webinar, one like we did last time in that forum, because I think the general public too are so interested in knowing these things. So yeah, we'll be sharing that, which we're looking forward to. So it must be a busy time for you, Lauren, leading up to this now, coming back from that, and now the forecast straight into it.
Yeah, it is, but I think I'm very lucky. I get to do what I love, so it's a busy time, but it's something that all of us are very passionate about. So it's busy but fun, which is good.
Yeah, that's what you want. You want
it is.
Sure. Did we have any more questions? Looks like we've had that one there from Nick, but that's all right. No, that was great. All those memories now you've got. What a career highlight for you.
Yeah, it was really, really great. And I think, we're so lucky, like we've got obviously Melbourne Design Week on at the moment. So if you do get opportunities to go to any of the beautiful installations that are around town, and even going into the NGV and seeing what's going on at the moment at Melbourne Now, we've got a lot of local talent as well, which is exciting.
There's plenty to see.
There it is.
That's it. Awesome. All right. Well, we won't keep you, but thank you so much for your time today in sharing this. And as we've said, we've recorded it, so you can watch it back a bit later. So
great.
Thanks very much, Lauren.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.